Hey friends, let's talk today about 10 things you need to stop doing if you're trying to grow a business teaching yoga online. Before we get started, take all of these with a grain of salt. Take what works for you, maybe notice the ones that trigger something in you and maybe there's something to explore there, and leave the rest. If you're brand new to my channel, welcome, I'm Bettina. I've been teaching yoga for almost 20 years and I've been in an online space for the last 10. I run an online yoga business based around yoga for fertility, pregnancy, and postpartum, and I also share what works for me in a business space because I know what it's like to be a yoga teacher, trying to teach 20 plus studio classes a week. I know what that burnout feels like, and I don't want that for you. So I hope to share these tips so that you can create a business around your yoga teaching so that you can have the space and the freedom to work in the way that you want to work. So the first thing I need you to stop doing is trying to aim for perfection, whether that be in the way that you plan your classes, whether that be in trying to find the perfect camera or the perfect microphone, or to present yourself perfectly, like if you've got this whole I'll wait till I lose 5 kilos thing going on, or I'll wait till I've done that next training and then I'll have more experience. Whatever perfection you're currently shooting for, I want you to let it go, and I want you to allow yourself to be a beginner. Just like we allow our students to come onto the mat and be beginners in their practice, let this practice of building an online business be your practice as well, and let it be okay to be a little bit rubbish at the start, or let it be okay to not know everything. Let it be okay to make mistakes, because if you put perfection as the barrier, you're never going to get there and you're never going to get started. And honestly, the way that we grow an online business is we literally just put one foot in front of the other. We get started, we put ourselves out there, and we keep learning and growing along the way. The second thing I want you to stop doing is expecting your online yoga business or your online yoga teaching to make you money right from the start. I think that puts too much pressure on the work that you're doing online. And I also think it makes you create a business around quick money instead of what will potentially snowball into big money. So let me give you an example for this one. So if you're looking to get started teaching yoga online, the most logical way to take an in-person audience into an online space is to offer something like live classes or Zoom classes. So like a lot of people did during COVID times, people couldn't get into the studios, so suddenly everyone was scrambling to get their work online so that people could access their classes from home. And while this is a great offering and it's a really nice way to have that interaction still with your audience, I don't believe it's a way to build a sustainable online business that will give you the freedom you're after, because you're still locking yourself into a time and a place. You might also be restricting yourself around numbers because people have to show up at a certain time, so it doesn't mean that it's all inclusive and people can access it whenever they want, based on time zone and all those sorts of things. So while the easiest and fastest way to make money when you're a yoga teacher is to offer those live classes to the people who already show up in person for you, and that feels like a quick win because you might have 10 people show up and you got to teach at home in your own space and you immediately cut out travel time and setup time and all those sorts of things. Just like in-person classes, you still have to market for every sale that comes in, for every person who signs up to those courses. So you will likely still be doing the same amount of work in the lead up to the class that you would be doing for an in-person class anyway. Instead of taking the time to learn how to grow an online business, that will probably involve a lot of free work to get started and a lot of free work ongoing. Like this particular video I'm making for you right now, I make a class for YouTube that I share freely every week. I also share it on my Instagram, so I'm making a lot of free content. And when I first got started, the only content I was making was free content. But gradually that free content is directing people towards my paid content that now works on its own. I don't have to market my classes every week. In fact, you rarely see me marketing a class because everything I've created works within a search engine, either YouTube or Google, and it does it on its own for me. So if you're just going for the quick buck when you first get started, I think you limit yourself in learning how to create a business that can become an engine, a marketing engine for you and sell your work for you. So my advice would be at the start, don't put that restriction on your business to make money, because then you're going to be looking for the quick wins instead of the long-term sustainable wins. Instead, keep your part-time job, teach yoga classes on the side, whatever you need to do to make the money you need to live on, so that at the start, for the first year or so, your business can just grow without being encumbered by that stress of needing to make money. I also want you to stop trying to be everything to everyone and stop trying to be the answer or the solution to everyone's problems. Too often as yoga teachers, because we know yoga can help so many aspects of someone's life, we're trying to be the solution to everyone. And in an online space, that can be someone says, oh, I really love if you would make this. And so you go, yes, of course I can make that. And off you go and you make that and you share that. And then someone else has this other random suggestion and you make that. And suddenly all your work is a little bit disjointed because you're just taking suggestions from random people. Now, there are two parts to this because I think you should listen to your audience and you should follow the leads because they leave clues for you when your audience asks questions. But I also think you need to have a bit of a bigger picture in terms of what am I actually trying to create here. So for instance, my business is all around fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, motherhood. However, I do have people in my audience who are runners and who are athletes, and they might also be mothers, but they want specific things created for these different topics. And I'll often get questions asking if I can make a class for this in particular. And while sometimes I will direct them towards things I've already created and say, hey, this will be perfect for you, or I'll give them some advice. Like, I'm not withholding information, but I'm also not going to go and create a full series on yoga for running because that's not an area I want to be known for. That doesn't lead to any of my paid products. It's just not in the business plan. So I think you need to stay true to what it is that you want to share and the work you want to share. If it doesn't interest you at all and someone just asks a question, answer it as best you can, or say, hey, that's not my specialty, but this person over here is doing great work, and just direct them on. You don't have to be everything to everyone, and it's really important not to get caught up chasing all the shiny objects because new ideas feel fun and exciting and fresh, but it's when you focus and you do deep work and you work in a space long term, that's when you're going to get the best results in an online space. Similar to the previous point, I want you to stop trying to be on every platform. If you're trying to grow on YouTube and grow a website and an email list and a Facebook and a TikTok and all the other different social media accounts, you're going to get nowhere fast because you're putting energy in all of these places. Instead, pick one avenue that you're going to learn about and you're going to get good at and focus your time there for at least 6 months and give focused, consistent energy to that platform for 6 months. So for me, that would be YouTube. Go all in on YouTube for 6 months. Post a video a week for 6 months and see what happens. Learn how to make great thumbnails for YouTube and see what happens. It doesn't mean you can't then share it to Instagram or share it to your Facebook if you already have these things set up, or share it to your email list or anything like that. But I want you to go all in on one and stop trying to create great content for Instagram and great content for TikTok and great content for YouTube because you're going to go nowhere in all of these directions. Instead, focus, learn how to market your work well on one platform, and then you can diversify from there. I want you to stop feeling like you need to put on a yoga persona when you teach your classes. And you know what I'm talking about. It's that almost monotone that people come across. It's very serious, very spiritual. We might not crack a smile or a joke. I know you know what I'm talking about. And I want you to give yourself permission to let that go. Let yourself make the silly dad jokes that you like to make in your classes. Let yourself make mistakes and not edit them out of your classes because that makes you human and relatable. I used to edit out every mistake in my videos, and now I try to leave them in because they are the things my audience comments on the most. The times where I just say something silly, mix up my lefts and rights, repeat one side instead of doing the other side. Of course, if you're growing a business, you still want to be professional, but you can be professional and be yourself, and you'll have much more fun doing it. I want you to stop over planning. When I first started teaching yoga, both in person and online, I was a meticulous over planner. So I would have a very detailed plan of what the class would be. I would write out a script for how I would introduce it. Maybe I'd write out a script for what I was going to say in Shavasana. It was very intensely planned. And it wasn't until a beautiful friend and mentor of mine, the late Lauren Verona, said to me about teaching an in-person class that if you plan too much, you don't allow space for the magic. And she used to show up at her classes and she had no plan. Like, I remember hanging out in the foyer with her and she'd be like, so what am I teaching today? And I'd be like, how have you not thought about this? And I would feel stressed because she didn't have a plan. And I loved her classes more than anyone else's because the magic that came through because she was listening to people's bodies and she was listening to people as they came into the foyer, and she was learning about their lives. And she would weave all of that into this magic class that made you laugh and made you cry and made you move, and all of that. That magic is lost when you meticulously overplan. Which is not to say you shouldn't plan at all, because she was a unicorn who could show up and have no plan. I always like to have an intention and a rough kind of guide of where I'm going in my class, but nowadays I really do leave space for the magic to come through as well. And that's a trust in my own teaching and my own bank of knowledge that I've built up. It's a trust that the energy is going to come in and I'm going to feel into the energy of the room. If I'm teaching an online class and there's no one physically in the room with me, it's the collective energy that I've been involved with in the Facebook group, in our conversations via email, so that I'm still in the community even if they're not here with me in person when I'm filming them. And it's a trusting that the magic is going to come through. So I want you to give yourself permission to do enough planning that you're going to feel confident you can show up confidently, and then leave the rest for magic. I want you to stop focusing on finding that hack or that trick that's going to make your yoga classes or your business go viral. And I know you know what I'm talking about. It's constantly searching for how to tag your videos right, what type of content to make, trying to follow trending music or trending reels or doing these ones. You know what I'm talking about. And I know it can be tempting when we're in an online space to follow all the trends, but I want you to step back from that and think about, what am I trying to create here? And for me, I want to share my yoga. I want to share these teachings. I want to share this community. I want to share the spiritual side of it. And I don't really want to be creating reels for reel's sake. And while yes, I do sometimes create reels and they can be beneficial for my audience and for my business, they also have the essence of what I want to do in them. So they'll be sharing a yoga practice, or they'll be sharing reflections on practice, or they'll be sharing information about yoga. And while this type of content isn't likely to go viral anytime soon, I don't think that's what you should be aiming for anyway. The chances are, if you go viral for something, you're not going to be attracting that true audience that's going to invest in your business and your work anyway. You're just going to be attracting the masses who are going to bombard you with a whole lot of irrelevant, potentially offensive comments anyway. That's not going to encourage you to continue to do the work that you want to share. I think you should be aiming for slow, sustainable growth. That's certainly what I've seen over the last 10 years. I've never really gone viral on any particular platform, but I've still grown a business that makes me a full-time income from this slow growth. And touch wood, so far, everyone who comes into my space has been aligned with my values, because I'm always staying true to them and sharing what I believe in. And while there have been a few off comments who disagree with me, and I fully accept disagreement, most of the time it's done in a respectful way, because I'm not just grabbing for attention. I'm not just seeking the internet hack to get eyeballs on. I genuinely am only trying to attract those people who want to learn what it is I'm trying to teach. So I want to encourage you to stop looking for the hacks, stop looking for the tricks. Sure, you need to learn how to work in an online space, but you don't need a trick or a hack. You just need to do really good work and share it with your audience. So on the flip side of that, I think you're making a mistake if you just do the yoga work and just put videos out there. So while I don't want you to follow fads or trends or try to go viral, you do need to learn, how do I get in front of the people who I want to see it? How do I tag? How do I title? How do I make thumbnails? How do I share and talk about the work that I do in a way that will bring my audience to me and help me to be found in search? Because search is the key to a sustainable online yoga business that's going to earn you money while you sleep. And I know that's why you're here. You want a business that will give you the freedom to do the work you want to do, and not the 20 classes that burn you out and leave you feeling like you can never get off this merry-go-round of constant teaching. So I do want to encourage you to take the time to actually learn how you can grow a sustainable business in this way. So I teach this in my online course Presence, if you'd like someone to hold your hand and step you through the process. But essentially it's stepping your audience through the process of finding you, so working out how you can be found in search, encouraging them to become a part of your inner network, whether that's through a freebie or joining a community, and then offering them great value and sharing the paid products that you offer. So that if someone finds you and decides to not pay any money, they're still getting great value, but there is that option for paid offerings if someone wants to go deeper and work more closely with you. I want you to stop spamming random Facebook groups with your yoga videos. This is not the way to grow an audience online. This is not actually going to help your YouTube channel at all, even if people do click on it, because in those random groups, they tend to have a like, I'll watch your video if you watch mine. But the algorithm is really smart these days. It knows when someone watches and just clicks on for 2 seconds and then clicks off, and that's sending a bad signal to the algorithm that this is actually not worth watching. Instead, take the time to learn the language that your audience uses to talk about these topics and put that in your titling, put that in your intro, talk about it, make better videos so people stay on. The effort and time that you invest into one, making a really good video to start with, and two, learning how to put it in front of an audience who's going to see it will pay off way more than doing any sort of spamming in groups. Which is not to say group involvement isn't helpful, but for me, all I would do is just have my work in my bio, and then I would get involved in meaningful conversations. If someone asks a question about yoga that you know a lot about, answer the question. If they appreciate the advice, they will naturally click through and find your work anyway. This is certainly not where I would focus all my energy if I was building an online yoga business, but it can be a part of it if you do genuinely enjoy interacting in those sorts of groups. And then finally, I want you to stop trying to make your online work your only work. I see this too often where yoga teachers get pulled into the notion of a freedom business in the online world, which is absolutely possible. But then I see those yoga teachers often forget the fact that they came into this space to share their yoga, and they often get pulled into other avenues, other ways of making money, like coaching or mentoring, instead of sharing the work that they actually wanted to share. And I think that's such a tragedy, that when we lose these really great teachers because they realize they can make more money in a space selling coaching or mentoring, often even not on the topic of yoga. Instead, I actually think it's really great for your online business if you're still doing the work in person. Those in-person interactions, those learnings from still teaching your classes or still doing one-to-one sessions, whatever the work is that you currently do, is going to bring so much depth to your online work that you're going to be able to share more authentically. Your audience is going to be more connected to it because you're so much more relatable, because what you're doing is real instead of just existing in this online space. Essentially what I'm saying is, don't become a coach who just coaches others how to coach. And then that becomes somewhat of a pyramid scheme where coaches are just enlisting new coaches. Stay true to your yoga, stay connected to it. And I think the best way to do that is by keeping a part of your work in person, in the real world, connected to what is actually going on in the real world. And this, of course, isn't to say that you can't cut down on your work. You might only do one workshop a month. If your online business is really profitable, you might just be doing that one workshop that keeps you connected, that allows you that interaction still, but still gives you the freedom to do travel around that. There are lots of different ways to make this work, but I think it is a huge mistake letting go of your in-person work and just chasing creating an online business. I think you'll get too far away from the heart of your business, which is yoga, and instead just chase online fame. So they are the 10 things that I think you should stop doing. But let's turn this into a group counseling session, shall we? Go ahead and share in the comments the things that you hate seeing in an online yoga space, and let's make this a really helpful resource for everyone who's just getting started.